Hi, everyone. Welcome to week 11, Discuss Your Learning for the xAPI cohort. I'm very excited about showing you guys off. This is going to be great. Don't forget, there is an xAPI party April 27th, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. Pacific time. And we want you to join the party and see a lot of great projects that have been created with xAPI in mind. And I know several of you have put in a proposal, and I know the programming team is looking at those. But with learning solutions going on this week, we need to get that to you as soon as we can. And I know we're working hard at putting the program together, and you will be alerted when you've been accepted. If you are not part of the guild, please become a member, because we offer things like this, free things like this, other webinars. We're doing some live streams from Learning Solutions, and just a lot of fun stuff. Plus, it's all free, and you get discounts to the face-to-face conferences and some of the webinars, and it's all great. So become a member now, and I will put a link in chat. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to invite people to the stage from the Storyline Spring 23. And I'm going to go and locate them. And let's try. We have, oh, there she is. So we have Alicia Jane. And Alicia, I'm going to send an invitation for you to invite to the stage, and you'll come to the stage and be on the stage with me. And then we also have Elizabeth Patience, who is also going to come to the stage. And you can go ahead and start your camera. Hello, is it Alicia or Alicia or?
Alicia Jelaine, that's good. Alicia Jelaine is good.
Okay, great. So we have Alicia and we have Elizabeth, and I know we had Sean, but I do not find Sean's name here, so.
He can't make it.
Oh, he can't make it. All right, well, that's fine. We have two. So we're going to talk about your learning for this cohort, which, let me grab a few things. So the people on your team, so you two, obviously, and there was someone named Sean. How many people do you think there were on your team that were working?
I think there's 5. So Bethany and Linnea also attended some meetings. We had 1 or 2 people kind of pop in and out. But yeah, Bethany really kicked us off, which was nice because we weren't quite sure how to get started.
Yeah, and that can be a really rough thing, is how do you start, right? So what about the two of you? Why don't you give us both just a short introduction? What's the work you do? And why did you join the team?
I'll go first. Once again, I'm Alicia Jelaine. I'm very excited to be here. I was lost, and I tell Elizabeth I was so glad that Bethany or you, Karen, allowed Bethany time, I think around week 6, to introduce herself and plead for people to come join the team. So I work with Storyline. I'm an instructional design specialist with Emory Healthcare. I've been there a little over 2 years, and just was excited to, very familiar with Storyline, but trying to help our stakeholders to understand the importance of measuring what we do in the courses for ROI, and so that they can understand healthcare is in a really tight place right now. They're watching every penny. So we want to be able to demonstrate, the things that we do are important. And this cohort was just a great opportunity for me to take on this project, see what xAPI is all about, so that now I can go to them and talk more intelligently about what we need to be doing and where we need to be investing, so that we can, make sure that our learners are participating and getting more value for their time spent in training. So I'm very appreciative of this cohort.
Oh, I'm glad. I'm glad you had a good experience. I'm glad that it's helping you ask those right questions.
Yes.
How about you, Elizabeth?
I'm an instructional designer with the Alaska Native Tribal Health Consortium. And I'm a new instructional designer. I'm less than a year in the job, 10 months. I have about 2 years of experience with Articulate, but I'm a new instructional designer. And I come from a background where measurement and quality is really important. So I wanted to bring that skill set to my team. And xAPI seemed to be what I was getting. I learned a lot about it at DevLearn and wanted to get started. And I thought the cohort would be it's provided a lot of milestones and benchmarks to sort of prompt us to kind of just get in there and do it and get over that sort of starter block problem. So.
Oh, yeah, you really, at that starter, where do I start? What is it about? I don't know anything. Just jump in and do it. And I know we say that all the time, but that can also be difficult to put into practice. So I'm really glad that you just joined a team and you jumped in. So that's really great. I just happened to go look at Slack and saw there's 48 members actually in your particular channel in Slack. So there's probably a number of people who are just observing, and that's absolutely okay. And we highly encourage it because you're going to learn things along the way. So even though you didn't necessarily work on this particular project, but hopefully you're coming away with some knowledge. And I know there's a number of channels where they put some stuff in and they really didn't congeal into a like a project or something to work on, but they shared things in between themselves in the channel about whatever that channel was. For example, there was Dungeons and Dragons. I haven't heard from them in a couple of weeks, but I know that was something that got kicked off and they were going back and forth on how we do that. So that brainstorming is always very, very helpful. All right. So can you give us just a couple of minutes about what you learned or the work that you did during the cohort on any kind of project that you may have created or worked on?
I'll start because Elizabeth was so gracious and she had a course. She was very strategic about where we were going. So she had a storyline course that was already created. It was very short. And the goal was to get it to an LRS and then to an LMS to get some data. So she was very specific. So we didn't spend a lot of time trying to, create a course or figure out what we were trying to do because it was already there, which was very good. So we watched those Devlin Peck videos just to see how do we take the storyline course, the SCORM or the HTML, and put it in a place where there's an LRS, which I learned that there's I was working with the SCORM cloud, and I learned about veracity. So we put it in veracity and then to the LMS, and just understanding the difference between the LMS and the LRS and knowing what to do and how to get it going. There were a lot of hoops and hurdles. There were a lot of long nights of things that didn't happen, but we finally got to a point where, hey, we were able to seize those xAPI statements in her storyline file. Storyline writes a lot of the automatically, I guess it auto-fills some xAPI statements. So we were able to see and get some data at the very end. So by her already having a course already ready to go, that helped us to just focus on the steps of the LRS and getting into the LMS and seeing some data. So I'm very glad that we had that piece already. We didn't have to worry about that.
Oh, that's great. And Elizabeth, do you have anything to add?
I think what was nice. So, okay, because we now have the storyline in an LMS communicated with an LRS. We got to where we kind of wanted to be. I can look back and say, okay, maybe it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. But as I was going through it, I think I was it took us a while. It wasn't until like week 5 or 6 that we actually figured out, okay, somebody needs to take the bull by the horns and set up a Zoom and meet, or go to AirMeet and meet, right? And then we need to just kind of start doing this. And then we tried to go and find resources. And actually we went to somebody mentioned Devlin Peck. We went to his, but we got to the older ones before we found the newer ones. So I actually spent a day coding. And then last week I figured out I don't need to code because I found a newer Devil Impact one and I don't need to code. And so part of me is like, that was really frustrating, and I hope no one ever has to do that again. And they know it's just simple. But then part of me is like, I learned a lot along the way, and I probably have a stronger base in xAPI because I did all those other things. And but it would, I think, be helpful for like the next quarter for new beginners, maybe just like a start here button, and like this is what you can do to kind of just get a project off the ground. Because the examples we were seeing in the course were aspirational, and I just wanted to be able to do them, but we are far from there.
Okay, all right. So what I'm hearing is there was some concern about how to get things going, and then you found things on the internet that were a little older, and you found something that was newer, and so you went down the rabbit hole and you learned a lot, which is really great because I totally understand that about going down the rabbit hole and learning all kinds of new things. That's always so fun. I just love it. And before you know it, I'm, hours into something. But having that initial, hey, this is how you start, probably sounds like a great idea. So that might be, the next thing I was going to ask you is about what worked and what were your challenges and how would you do differently? And you sort of touched on that, as well as how we can maybe improve it or advise other groups. What do you think that start button actually looks like?
I'm seeing people don't even know Slack, or they when you come into Slack and there's like, I don't know how many teams, and there's discuss teams, and there's meetup teams, and there's main, and there's social. And I know you were trying to go into the chat and really put in there, okay, this is what goes here and this is what goes here, but people were joining late, and people don't read, and people don't read, and so it becomes so much, and then you go to the session and you're like, oh my gosh, how do we get there? So just to start here, and it's like, form a team. You need to do that. Like, no, you need to do that. Not learning guilds, not the cohort, not veracity. You need to start the team. Like, I didn't know that. And this is my first cohort, right? And so I'm so grateful for Bethany. And I think this was her third or fourth before she kind of goes, okay, no, I need to do this, right? And she did it. She started a new job last week, so she can't continue. But that's I think what would be most helpful is just that. And then here are some places to go for information. I started with LinkedIn Learning, which is I think 3 years old. And then I went to the old Devil Impact, and then I went, got to the new one. It's just somewhere we could say, for the beginner, here's where you go. I think would be helpful.
Oh, that's great. Do you have anything to add, Alicia?
I guess for me, I was very specific in what I came for. I'm assuming other people are specific as well. So I'm not sure, because my start here, I would like to have known, okay, you need a course. If you want to, you need an LMS, you need an LRS. Here are the options, and maybe that was there somewhere. Here are some options. I think I did see some in the chat where the vendors were suggesting, hey, try stuff for, use a sandbox or what have you for veracity. I don't know how I knew about veracity other than with Elizabeth. I just didn't know what to do. I was lost. So for me, a start here would be, here's what you need to do. You need a course, you need an LRS, you need an LMS if you want these kind of results. If you just want to talk about stuff and hypothetically, I saw someone, they had a really nice outline of what they were going to do and people were going to do this, but I don't know what kind of outcome they, ended up with. Each week they kind of made changes, which was great, but I was very specific in what I wanted. I wanted a skill when I walked away. I didn't want to learn how to create a course where I already knew that. I wanted to take the course, get it in an LMS or LRS, and produce data. And I just needed help on how to navigate that.
Okay. Oh, that's really fair. And so what I'm hearing is that perhaps having a docent or a mentor for the new people might be beneficial. People
Yeah.
like you had Bethany, who had already been doing this 3 or 4 times, and Bethany goes, okay, we need to do this, and we need to do this, and we need to do this. And that kind of linear progression helps you framework what you want to do here. And then Alicia, you came with, I know a course, I want to get the xAPI, I want to get the statements. You had a specificity to your learning. So it's really good to understand that and get that kind of feedback. So that would be great for advising other groups and maybe having a new, we tried a newbie group. It unfortunately didn't give this kind of direction, but I really appreciate what you're telling me. That's great. Did you create any documents with your learning, or was it all, I mean, obviously you had a storyline course, but did you have any, project charter or project plan or loose notes or anything like that?
We used Slack. So that's kind of what I was realizing. I figured, so one thing I will say is we weren't aware it was going to happen, but it was awesome when it did, which was we started just talking about doing things in Slack and where we were running into bumps, and people jumped in that weren't part of our group that I know of and answered our questions, which was awesome. If I were to try and learn xAPI on my own, I wouldn't have a Matt K from Torrance Learning jumping in and saying, oh, here's how you do that. Here's the line of code that you're missing, right?
Yeah.
But then when I went and tried to replicate that, I ran into some issues, but I put it all in Slack. And I'm wondering if there was an articulate spring or fall 2022, and they wrote all their things in their Slack. I never went back and looked at that. They might have figured out the same things that we figured out. But yeah, documents make sense. And it's good practice. Just didn't do it.
Yeah, our Slack workspace is 90 days, and then everything prior to 90 days is removed.
Okay.
So you only have it's only a cohort, based information in the Slack workspace, unfortunately. Okay. So it's only available for that. But yes, Matt K from Torrance Learning, give him a great shout out. He was very, very helpful. He did jump in a couple of places. So that's really wonderful. And there are other people in the community. And just to let people know, you post your question in the main, that hashtag main, because there's people in the community who are experts, and I would say Matt being one of those people, and some other people are like, oh yeah, oh, I know how to do that, or let me figure out, let me ask my colleague or whatever. And it's a very helpful community. So I think that's really great. Now, so our experience here is, this is what we were going to do, is just discuss your project. You don't really have any work product that you wanted to share, or do you?
We weren't really we weren't sure what the difference was between today and the party and what was, so we didn't really spend, we got it into the LMS yesterday, so we're kind of just focused on that. But we have statements in Veracity, which is yay.
That is great. So it sounds like you put in a proposal for the xAPI party.
Yep.
Yes.
All right. Well, great. Well, maybe we'll see that at the party. I know they're looking at things and making decisions. So I'm just going to throw it out. If you would just give us a last, what are your lessons learned? I mean, we've gone through a number of them, quite honestly. But is anyone have any questions for Elizabeth or Alicia? I'm going to just throw that out. You can put them in the chat. That would probably be easiest for all of us to view. But I guess the lessons learned would be to have that real newbie kind of docent or mentor to help you guys, a newbie, along. Is there anything else that you found, any other lesson learned you'd like to share?
So last week I was at the social learning conference that you guys had, the Learning Guild held, And that they talk a lot about how awesome it was to just have us talk to each other. And sitting by myself, it would have taken 5 times as long. But Alicia kept pushing me. It's like, I tried this didn't work. Help me, or this worked or that didn't work, and we just really sharing back and forth. That really helped. And in lieu of an expensive course, or in lieu of finding my own Mat K somehow on my own, that was really helpful. And as far as the question in the chat, I was able to yesterday. We just used Articulate, and it. I mean, the version we had before that was like you have to have a wrapper, whatever that is, an xAPI wrapper, and you had to get that, and then you had to get this JS file and this JS file, and you had to copy every time you published and code, and got rid of all of that. Mm-hmm. So the Articulate we just send statements via a trigger in Articulate directly, and it worked.
That's great. Anything you'd like to add, Alicia?
Yeah, I am interested, just as we continue to go forth. Sorry, my phone is ringing, but the statements that are already in Storyline, I guess those are the most common statements that probably people ask. I would like to kind of learn more about those, and that's kind of what I'm looking for as we finish this last week or this next couple weeks. Just the statements that are already in there, and what data you can get data that's already without even adding additional statements. So just want to make sure I understand what those are before adding more to make sure they answer. And the speakers that we had, Carol, they were so great each week. I just learned so much. So I am just absolutely thankful just for the great messages that kind of motivated us and just encouraged us. I mean, we many of us are lone rangers in our areas. People don't understand what we're talking about. They're like, what are you talking about? But we're passionate about, we see it coming, the measurement. We want to create better learning assets. So this is a great opportunity to see how how people are engaging with what's already existing. So, we're Lone Rangers, so it's great to have this cohort to know that there's other people out there that are, nobody's going to understand what you're talking about, but you got to keep going in your organization. You got to keep going anyway, because it's coming.
Well, that's great. And I want to thank both of you for coming up on stage here. That was great sharing that information with us. I am going to go to our next group. And I'm going to basically take you off the stage. You'll still hear and see and everything like that. But I'm going to bring them to the stage. And that is our chat GPT, chat souffle. Let me bring everybody to the stage here. One moment. And they're going to be getting their invitations from me. There's Doug who's coming to the stage. And Sam and Anya. Oh, there we go. I think that's what we had was Anya, Doug. Oh, and Kelly. Is Kelly going to be here? I didn't put her name in. Kelly, there she is. Okay, so I'm going to get everyone here on stage. And if you would just please, just as we were talking before, just introduce yourself a little briefly, tell us a little bit about your work, and tell us why you joined the particular group you did. So who'd like to go first?
Hi, everyone. My name is Anya, and and this is Team Chat GPT, and we take this learning cohort very seriously. So we did prepare slides for this conversation. So will that be okay for us?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Please go right ahead.
So I will go ahead and share.
All right, we're seeing your slide. Oh,
a second.
Sure. Sam, Your jacket looks like Star Trek. I'm sorry, I had to say that because that's what went into my head. But anyways, go ahead, Anya.
Yeah, so we are Chat Souffle, Team Chat GPT, and you asked about our team, and you asked to introduce ourselves. So this is our team, the core team, and we had so many more people who helped out. So I will start. My name is Anya Medvedev. I'm an instructional designer at Georgetown University. And I joined this team, I think it was the second meeting, and I saw that these guys are really, really pro-action, really, really very thoughtful people that I felt like this team will get things done. So I joined and I had an amazing experience learning with them. And I will let everyone else introduce themselves as well.
Thanks, Anya.
Doug?
Yeah, can you guys hear me? I just had a mic problem. I got a thumbs up from Anya, so I think that means you can hear me. Yeah, so my name's Douglas Hahn. I'm a PMP certified project manager. I'm a consultant. I have skills in technical and creative. So I joined the Learning Guild to pivot towards education. I've sort of had a career trajectory towards that in the last few years. And I'm on the lookout for people who can understand my unique skill set and build cool projects like we built here. So that's what I'm all about.
Now, Kelly, we're not hearing you yet. Maybe the mic problem isn't just Doug. And I'll go ahead. I was the last piece of the puzzle to come together for our little team. In the previous presenter, Elizabeth was just mentioning, like, people join late, people don't read, people like that's me. But it is still it is still possible to participate in all of this. And as Anya was just saying, like, it's great to get in on something that's already moving and just get in where you fit in. So I was joining this specifically because it was about not just ChatGPT, but about improving assessment quality. And that really attracted my attention. Kelly? No, we don't have you yet.
No. So Kelly, try unplugging your speaker cord and plugging it back in if you're using that. If you're using your onboard, try and do a test with go to the 3 dots at the bottom and you go to audio and video settings. Mm-hmm. And maybe we can get something there.
And we did do a dry run test yesterday. It worked then. And also part of our team who's not presenting here because he just came from another webinar that he was presenting, Evan Hall as well. So he's very much a part of this, but we only had so many squares to share here.
All right. So while Kelly is getting her audio working, perhaps we can move on.
Yeah, and since we are kind of on the team formation and timeline, how we all came together, maybe I'll share this slide with you, where we have the timeline of this cohort. You all can see before, and from the conceptualizing our idea about okay, the ChatGPT, it sounds awesome. Let's have people play with it and try it out. And also, I think Becky Goldberg was part of that first meeting that I attended, and she suggested that assessment, specifically the quality of assessment, was also a topic that is worth looking into. So just from that vague ideas of what our project might be, it then became something that we are really excited to share with you today, our final product. So you'll see, like, refining the concept, and then we kind of divided into different lanes. One, like instructional designers on our team, Kelly, Evan, myself, were working on developing a storyboard, developing all this content that would go into our learning experience. And Doug was working more of a development, xAPI, and Twine. And then Sam, as he mentioned, joined and was the figuring out the data analytics and putting this piece together. And let's see, we're kind of going out of order, so not taking. Maybe next we can talk about our project goals and outcomes.
Yeah, that sounds great. Please, please.
And Kelly, Doug, did you want to jump in?
Let's see if Kelly can make it. Sadly, Kelly can't. It looks, Kelly, we can't hear you still. You need those headphones again. You had the headphones on yesterday.
And then
I'll take it. So our goals, we had 3 goals for this project. We had an instructional design component, which was to get people playing and using ChatGPT in a structured way to practice prompt engineering. And we focused in on building distractor questions using ChatGPT on the topic of cooking, hence the name Chat Souffle, because we're building a souffle and using different recipes. We had an xAPI component of this because this is an xAPI cohort, so we wanted to create micro check-ins throughout our learning experience and even track when learners repeated paths to see how their experience changed, and we used xAPI to achieve that. And Sam jumped in, and he's our analytics guru, and we have some pre and post survey information that captures confidence in ChatGPT and experience in developing and iterating on prompts and things like that, as well as their attitude towards the increased use of AI. I believe that in our data, we're segmenting some of that so we can say, you know, somebody who has low confidence in ChatGPT had this kind of experience going through the exercises. So lofty goals, I might say. And then we built a whole website now. So yeah.
you guys did so much. That is amazing. That is truly amazing. There was a lot. And I want to tell people that this is amazing. This is an amazing piece of work. But if you just learned how to write an xAPI statement, that's awesome too. Mm-hmm. So what else would you like to share with us, Doug, Kelly, Anya, and Sam?
I think we can go to the next slides, right, Anya? Where were we going next? Outcomes. I believe Sam was going to take this one, right?
Sure.
Was it? Uh-oh. Maybe not.
Well, I think Doug already pretty well described the outcomes, but we haven't talked yet about Twine. So I had no idea what Twine is. I don't think Doug knew. I don't think anybody knew what Twine was except Kelly, who's the one struggling to get off mute now. But you can go back and go ahead and go slowly through these, Anya. That would be great. Twine is an interactive generator. You can make stories basically online, and it's branching and mobile friendly, but it's also free and open source. And no one had ever mashed up that tool set with xAPI before. And Doug looked through the documentation and said, okay, I've never seen this, but I guess we'll try. And there were a few fits and starts along the way. It didn't necessarily go smoothly, as perhaps you've experienced before. Just because something is documented doesn't mean the documentation is correct or understandable. So there were a couple little stumbling moments around that. But Twine in general turned out to be a great platform for us to use. And one of the kind of side outcomes that we've talked about as a team is how to take some of the stuff that we've developed in this project and revise it a bit and open it up. Speaking of opening up, we've got our documentation and everything for the project is available, and I'll actually just put in the chat right now a few things that allow people to link out to the work that you can see. And I guess that's too many characters for the chat. I'll break it up. But we do have all of our project documentation in Google Drive, and used a lot of the same kinds of tools that you all are using along the way with Slack and things to communicate. We met quite a few times. I'm sure everybody met before I was even on the project, and with our with the things that we're learning from it, I'll also just share, if it's not jumping the gun too much now, some of the data stuff that I get really excited about, that is a lesson learned, I think, for our team, because things were starting from a strong instructional design place. And Anya, actually, if you could go back a couple slides to the whole storyboard, mapping things out in a way that's independent of technology, and starting first with, like, what is it that we're trying to do and trying to make. As you can guess, this didn't come out in like one iteration. It wasn't like there was this great vision to start with and then everything just lined right up. Like, we went through some cycles. We just threw a bunch of stuff out there. Some of it worked, some of it didn't. And what we're doing with Twine is basically capturing data with xAPI to show the journey of how experienced people are with ChatGPT and with creating multiple choice assessments, and being able to track for just self-reporting data of which of these groups people fall into, track prompting them to make prompts, either with things that we've created, which is the first track there, provided track, or something that people are generating themselves and doing on ChatGPT, which is the second track. So we've got a couple different data points that we're trying to capture, and we could really use your input in here as well. If you would like to click on that first link that I shared there and taste some ChatGPT for yourself. For resources that we leveraged, just to go, sorry, blurred back to 11. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Thank you again for navigating, Anya. We're making use of a lot of the things that have been shared in this cohort, but we've also been looking out specifically at all the ChatGPT stuff that's going on. In the middle of developing this whole thing, ChatGPT 4 came out, and we had to decide, like, do we stick with what we're doing with the 3.5 version and those kind of prompt approaches, or do we change it all and go for ChatGPT 4 kind of thing? We decided to stay with what's freely available and what's really stayed in line, so we didn't have to change anything. All of these resources here are linked in one of the links I just shared in the chat, and it's really cool stuff to go through. Now, Anya, perhaps we can go on to the actual code part, and Doug can take this.
Great. Yeah, and what you said, Sam, about non-technical documentation kind of serving to build the technical part of the project and get everyone aligned, which is really resonant. So for the code part of the project, I could talk about for like 10 hours about JavaScript functions and things like that. But I think that for this, course, it's going to be better to focus on high-level process and enable people to collaborate. And that's what this project was all about. I'd never worked with learning designers as a project manager before, so this was a learning experience for me too, is how to align with the way instructional designers think, and to an extent how data people think sometimes. So one of the core tenets of this project is everything's 100% free. Everything's on GitHub. You can download the project right now. You can build it on your computer. You can run it. It generates an HTML file. You can download it. You double click it. It's going to open in your browser. It's going to talk to our LRS. It's going to send statements, and you're going to see those statements if you open up your browser console, and you're going to be able to learn xAPI just by interacting with our project. So that's a core tenet of this, build here is xAPI is interoperable, and we're trying to build something interoperable and shareable with the community too. So if we go to the next slide. So starting this out, we were at 0 on Twine. I didn't even know what Twine was when we started this. So I conducted, this is a little fake agile buzzwords here, but sort of a spike of like, can we even do this? Will it work? Can I get xAPI and Twine working together? So I spent a week once we had a direction set, if you remember that timeline, figuring out whether we can actually do this. And when you do that as a developer, and this is a good takeaway, I think, is for everybody, is break the problem down into its simplest form, the simplest way to do it, even if it's not perfect. And I got it working, and it wasn't a perfect solution. It was a messy solution, but I said, you know, we can do this, okay? And I had actually used the Twine graphical user interface because they have an app that they can use, so it's very visual. But I wasn't very happy with that because everything is sort of in one long block of JavaScript. And if we're writing a lot of xAPI statements, we want bite-sized pieces of code to keep it maintainable. And yeah, I learned a bonus lesson. We're going to share these slides with everybody afterwards too, because I feel like this code part's a little heavy. But you know, Twine, for those of you here who do know JavaScript, it does a lot of trickery with context. So that was probably one of the more challenging components of the project because Twine basically builds a single HTML page and then it plays with different nodes on the page to present different things to you. So we can go to the next slide. Okay. This is team alignment here, all right? So we knew we could build something in Twine and we wanted to establish a ubiquitous language. We wanted to make sure that we're all saying the same thing, right? So if you remember what I said 30 seconds ago, Twine builds a single page, right? And if I have instructional designers saying, can you please fix the title on the page? Well, that means something different to a developer than it does to the instructional designer, perhaps. So we really focused on thinking about language. In Twine, they're called passages or nodes. And we actually set up our storyboard to capture that and embody that data flow. So each slide on our storyboard was one node in Twine, and that helped us segment work and focus on the function and capture the functionality of what we were building in the process of writing what we were building. We also, oh, go ahead. Did I hear somebody?
I was just about to say, Doug, we're at time, so I want to be cognizant. No. Right. I want to be cognizant of everybody's time. However, if you all can and are willing, please come back next week. We had talked about maybe doing a part 2 when we were talking in Slack. So I don't know if this is a good breaking point, but if you can all come back next week, that would be great. And we can really get into it because I know people are very interested in seeing the actual guts of it. I know that sounds terrible to say, but no. I highly encourage people to do that, to go go ahead, Doug. Take a few more minutes.
Yeah, so no, we don't need more slides. We're going to share these slides with everybody. But the takeaway here is about aligning the team with a developer. And I think learning designers can look at what we built and, you know, work better with developers, even if they're not coding. There was talk of no code projects here. And that's sort of what the slide deck is aimed at and what I'd like to talk about next week if we get time. The other thing is that it's all on GitHub and we need you. We need you really bad because one of the final ultimate goals of this is a white paper about how the design community feels about AI. And we're not going to know how you guys feel about AI unless you share it with your networks and we start getting a lot more data. We only have about 25 unique actors who've taken the course so far. We have set a team goal of at least 100 actors for each track to write a white paper. That's a lot more. So please share our project. I don't want to sound like I'm begging, but I'm begging. Share it in your network because this is a cool project. We want to show it to people. We're really proud of our work. And we want to help the community by giving data back and sharing the sentiments about this new technology with the instructional design community. So don't be shy about playing with it, taking the test, sharing it. I called it a test. It's not a test. The experience, the learning experience. And just check it out and download the GitHub repo, play around. And you know what I like to say when people experiment with code? break stuff. Download it, break stuff. Have fun with it. Okay.
Oh yeah, break stuff.
Yeah.
That's
Seriously.
absolutely what you need
Yeah.
to do with code. It really is. So I know I want to thank you all for coming on today, and we're going to have part 2 next week. We definitely are, because we really want to get more into, I know you've been sharing weekly updates, and with all of you sharing that link, maybe they'll hit 100 and we can see a little more data. That would be fabulous. So thanks so much to Anya and Kelly and Sam and Doug, and Evan actually appeared. He didn't get invited to the stage, and I apologize for that because I was told he wasn't going to be here, but he'll join us next week, hopefully. So everybody, thanks so much for your time. I hope that you've learned something today, and we'll have part 2 with ChatGPT next week. And I love your background. I know I saw in the Slack that Sam created that with, was it Dahlia or Dolly?
Yeah, it's a Dolly generated AI image of chat souffle. So
awesome.
Wonderful.
And on that note, we're going to end. Thanks everybody, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Thanks.